The first time I saw her, I thought I was hallucinating. It was a rainy evening on Titan Station, a dimly lit orbital habitat hanging above Saturn's orange haze like a forgotten ornament. I, Dr. Julian Marlowe, xenopsychologist and occasional astrophysicist, was returning from a long data calibration shift when the station's docking bay lights flickered erratically. There, amid the cluster of supply pods and maintenance drones, stood her, a figure luminous enough to make the wet metal floors of Titan Station gleam like mercury. Her skin shimmered with a soft lavender hue, almost as if she were made from liquid starlight. Her eyes, 3 on each side of her head, evenly spaced, iridescent like prisms, watched me unblinking. And when she spoke, it was as if multiple voices harmonized into a single, haunting melody. "Human," she said, tilting her head in that strange, unsettling way alien beings sometimes do in movies. "What do I have to do to marry you?" I nearly dropped my thermos. Chapter 1. First Contact and Confusion. I blinked. "Excuse me." She repeated it, slower this time, almost ceremoniously. "What must I do to marry you, human?" A part of me wanted to run. A part of me wanted to ask how she had even learned my species' rituals well enough to articulate the concept of marriage. But instead, I did what any rational scientist would do. I nodded as though her statement were a perfectly normal opening line. I think you've got the wrong." "I do not," she interrupted, stepping closer. Her movement was fluid, graceful, yet impossibly fast. "I have observed you for many cycles, human Julian Marlowe. Your behavioral patterns, your laughter, your solitary meals in the hydroponics bay. I have determined that you are suitable." I swallowed. Suitable for what exactly? Her gaze softened. The word softened is inadequate when describing something with 3 sets of eyes, but her intent was clear. For union, matrimony, partnership, coexistence. The absurdity of it made my mind race. Aliens and humans had interacted before, mostly in the abstract terms of diplomacy or research, but marriage? On Titan. "I think I need to know your name first," I said cautiously. "I am Caliph," she replied. "I am your future spouse, unless you refuse me. Then, I must negotiate another course of action." Negotiate? I imagined some interstellar bureaucrat furiously stamping her marriage papers somewhere in deep space. I laughed nervously. "Well, Caliph, I'm honored, I think. But marriage is not exactly casual on Earth. There are feelings, laws, family." She cocked her head again. "Feelings are observed in you. Laws are irrelevant. Family may be considered, but your opinion carries weight." I noticed she didn't ask for consent outright. She assumed it. Chapter 2. Learning each other. Over the next few weeks, Caliph made it her mission to know everything about me. She shadowed my shifts in the observation deck, noting my every gesture, recording the patterns of my speech, my eating habits, even the way I hummed to myself when calibrating sensors. At first, I was unnerved. I was not used to being so transparently studied. But gradually, I realized something. She was not hostile. She tried Earth customs. She attempted coffee once, grimaced at its bitterness, and declared, "Poisonous, but delightful in your reaction." She mimicked my awkward hand gestures while laughing at my old video recordings, sometimes perfectly, sometimes distorted into alien contortions that made me double over with laughter. "You are quite humorous," she said one evening while we watched Saturn's rings shimmer against the black void of space. "You are quite insistent," I replied. "I am persistent because it is important. I have been trained for this." "Trained?" "Yes," she said simply. "To observe, to select, to acquire a mate." Her eyes, 6 of them, studied me as if she were scanning not just my face, but my very soul. And I realized something terrifying. I was flattered. Chapter 3. The Human Dilemma. I had to be honest with myself. I was developing feelings. But how could I explain that to someone whose species treated courtship like a military campaign? One night, after the station's artificial gravity fluctuated during maintenance, I confronted her. "Caliph, you know marriage on Earth is more than just observation and selection. It's mutual choice, consent, emotion." She nodded almost solemnly. "I have observed emotions. You feel affection for me. You try to resist, but your physiology betrays you. Physiology betrays me? I groaned. I'm not even sure I understand my own feelings yet. She floated closer. You are human. That is why you hesitate. You think too much. That is why I insist. You must act, or my selection process begins anew with another candidate. Her words had an edge I had never heard in her voice before. It was not anger, but determination, the kind that made you realize running away was not an option. Chapter 4. Trials of Union. According to Kalitha's customs, I had to demonstrate my suitability through a series of tests. The first was the trial of thought, in which I had to solve complex puzzles that required intuition and empathy simultaneously. One required me to guess which colors would comfort a holographic representation of a grieving alien child. I failed spectacularly, painting the hologram in violent red streaks. Kalith looked disappointed but not angry. The second trial of courage, involved navigating Titan's external maintenance tunnels without a tether while correcting an oxygen leak. I survived, though barely, and she clapped 6 times in unison, a sound that was oddly melodic and entirely alien. Finally came the trial of heart, which I realized was not a test but an inevitability. Kalith led me to the observation deck and presented me with a sphere of swirling starlight. "This is my homeworld's essence," she said softly. "It is fragile. It is beautiful. Will you protect it, as you have shown care for your own fragile human emotions?" I touched the sphere. Its light pulsed against my hand, almost like a heartbeat. I realized in that moment how deeply I had come to care for Kalith, not just as an alien admirer, but as something essential to my life. "I will," I whispered. Chapter 5. Acceptance and Commitment. The station's AI announced the conclusion of the trials. Kalitha's family, or the interstellar council that acted as such, would arrive to witness the union. The ceremony was unlike anything human. There was no altar, no priest, no rings. Instead, we stood before a vast viewport, the rings of Saturn spinning silently behind us. Kalith placed a hand, 3 fingers, glimmering in mine. "Julian Marlowe, you have passed my trials," she said. "You are my chosen. Do you accept me as I am, without fear, without hesitation?" I looked at her 6 eyes, shining with emotion I could not fully comprehend but could feel with every fiber of my being. "I do." A stream of light surrounded us, not just from the station's illumination, but from something beyond, something cosmic. Saturn's golden rings caught the glow, refracting it into every corner of the observation deck. Kalith smiled, or what I interpreted as a smile, and it was a moment of perfect understanding. Chapter 6. New Beginnings. Life after our union was different. Not easier, necessarily, but richer. I learned to navigate Kalitha's world in ways I could never have imagined. Our meals were sometimes edible, sometimes mere sustenance for her alien metabolism. Conversations were 6-fold in complexity, layered with meaning and emotion I struggled to decode. But every day, I discovered new things about her, about myself, about the peculiar joy of companionship across species. Station crewmates were initially skeptical. A human married to an alien? On Titan. But Kalitha's charisma and my growing confidence as her partner won them over. Children of our union were a concept far in the future, but we sometimes joked about hybrid offspring and laughed until the station's artificial gravity trembled with our amusement. And yet, every night, I would look out across the endless Saturnian expanse, holding her hand, feeling her warmth, even through 6 eyes that saw far more than I could ever imagine, and I would understand something profound. Love is not bound by biology, not by planet, not even by species. It is simply the willingness to see another being fully, accept them entirely, and say, "Yes, I will face the unknown with you." Kalith often whispered late at night, "I never thought a human would understand." I would squeeze her hand. "I never thought I'd fall for someone from the stars. But here we are." And she would laugh, a sound like chimes and thunder all at once, and reply, "Then we are perfect." Epilogue, a universe united. Years later, historians would note the human-alien unions on Titan Station as an anomaly, a curiosity, a brief flourish of interstellar romance in the otherwise cold bureaucracy of space. But to me, it was nothing short of destiny. Kalith, and I would sit on the observation deck, watching storms twist through Saturn's atmosphere. I would recall the first moment I saw her, standing luminous in the docking bay, 6 eyes fixed upon me, asking a question so absurd it nearly broke my rational mind. "What do I have to do to marry you, human?" Now, with our hands entwined, I knew the answer. "Nothing," I would say, and she would nod, because in truth, everything had already been done. Love, it seemed, was the ultimate experiment, and we were living proof that the cosmos still held surprises for those willing to reach beyond the stars.